In the late 1990s, commercial air travel in the United States functioned with a level of openness that is almost unrecognizable today. Passengers routinely walked to their departure gates without showing a boarding pass, kept their shoes on through metal detectors, and family members often waited at the jet bridge to greet arrivals. At the time, terrorism was viewed primarily as a regional, overseas threat. But throughout this period, Osama bin Laden and his organization, Al-Qaeda, were refining a strategy to strike the United States directly. Following years of smaller bombings against U.S. embassies and naval vessels abroad, they began coordinating a plot to destroy the primary symbols of American economic and military power on its own soil. This effort was aided by a systemic gap known as the intelligence wall. Due to a combination of legal restrictions and agency culture, the FBI and CIA were largely prohibited from sharing critical data. Information about known operatives entering the country often stayed within one agency, never reaching the investigators who could have tracked them domestically. This fragmentation left the government unable to connect the individual pieces of a growing conspiracy. While the agencies operated in isolation, 19 men successfully entered the country, enrolled in flight schools, and finalized a highly synchronized plot entirely undetected. On September 11, 2001, those hijackers arrived at airports in Boston, Newark, and Washington, D.C. They passed through the standard security checkpoints of the era, carrying items that were fully permitted in cabin luggage at the time: small pocket knives, small canisters of mace, and sharp box cutters. The hijackers targeted Boeing 757s and 767s specifically for their fuel capacity. On these transcontinental routes, the planes carried up to 24,000 gallons of jet fuel, effectively turning them into massive, flying incendiary weapons capable of inflicting maximum structural damage upon impact. The first strike occurred at 8:46 a.m., when American Airlines Flight 11 was flown into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Within minutes, the assumption that this was a tragic aviation accident began to collapse. As smoke poured from the tower, the nation watched as the local emergency escalated into a global event. At 9:03 a.m., a second plane hit the South Tower on live television. This confirmed the strikes were not accidents, but part of a multi-pronged attack. The coordination extended beyond New York. At 9:37 a.m., American Airlines Flight 77 struck the western side of the Pentagon in Virginia, killing 125 people and hitting the headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense. A fourth plane, United Flight 93, was delayed on the runway, which gave passengers time to learn of the other attacks through phone calls. Realizing their aircraft was also being used as a weapon, they launched a revolt to retake the cockpit. The plane crashed in a Pennsylvania field, failing to reach the hijackers' intended target in Washington, D.C. In just 102 minutes, 19 individuals had circumvented the security protocols of the world's most powerful nation, successfully striking the centers of its financial and military power. The heat from the burning jet fuel weakened the steel supports of the Twin Towers, causing the South Tower to collapse at 9:59 a.m., followed by the North Tower shortly after. As the buildings failed, hundreds of first responders from the FDNY, NYPD, and Port Authority police entered the complex to rescue those trapped in the upper floors. The final death toll was 2,996 people. This included the highest loss of life for emergency personnel in a single day in American history, with 343 firefighters and 72 law enforcement officers killed. Ground Zero became a massive recovery site, where teams worked for 8 months to clear nearly 2 million tons of toxic wreckage. This loss of life established the attacks as the deadliest act of terrorism in history. It left a lasting imprint on the American public, dictating the focus of national security, public grief, and domestic policy for decades to follow. The immediate reaction was a total shutdown of the skies. For the first time, the FAA grounded every commercial flight over the U.S., while Canada's Operation Yellow Ribbon took in hundreds of diverted international aircraft. International alliances shifted instantly. NATO invoked Article 5 for the first time in its history, declaring that the attack on the United States was an attack on all member nations. This led to the launch of the global war on terror. By October, US and British forces invaded Afghanistan to dismantle al-Qaeda's base of operations and remove the Taliban regime that protected them. This new focus on preemptive security expanded in 2003 with the invasion of Iraq. Citing the threat of state-sponsored terrorism, the U.S. initiated a second ground war, leading to a long-term military presence in the region. In less than 2 years, the United States had transitioned from the relatively localized military engagements of the 1990s to a strategy of broad, proactive global intervention, a military posture that would remain in effect for the next 20 years. Domestically, the government underwent its largest reorganization in 50 years. 22 different agencies were merged to create the Department of Homeland Security, a massive federal body designed specifically to prevent another coordinated domestic strike. Commercial flight was also transformed. The creation of the TSA replaced private security contractors with federal officers, making invasive screening and background checks a permanent requirement for every passenger. This was supported by the USA Patriot Act, which dissolved the old intelligence wall. It granted law enforcement and intelligence agencies vast new powers to monitor telecommunications and financial records, sparking a debate over the cost of security to civil liberties. Beyond the policy shifts, the physical toll continues. Thousands of responders and survivors now suffer from chronic respiratory illnesses and cancers caused by the toxic dust at Ground Zero, with the death toll from these illnesses continuing to rise each year. The morning of September 11th ended, but its consequences did not. It created the security protocols, the travel restrictions, and the geopolitical landscape we navigate every day.